Hey girl. So I haven't been on here for about a month or whatever. But a lot of things have taken place. Well, not a lot of things, but I just feel like um, from taking some time off, I don't know. I really feel like journaling really is important. And because I just feel like I don't feel like writing, doing video journaling is really important. So I'm glad because I think that I realized that taking time to journal in whatever form actually really does give me a moment to just slow down throughout my weeks, days, or whatever, and actually just sit down with myself and actually talk about what I've been thinking, what I've been feeling, and I think it's really helpful for me to do video journaling specifically because I can go back and watch and kind of really think about where I was at that point in my life. So I really am glad that I got back here today. I feel like a lot of stuff has just been going on. I have been distracted, and I think that the topic or the book that I'm going to talk about today really, because I just finished it last month, and I've been wanting to sit down and talk about it, but I've let things distract me or get in my way of actually sitting down with myself and having a conversation with me. So I'm glad that I'm back, and I do want to continue to stay consistent with this more because I want to assert myself more in the moments in my life and not let all the extra hoopla take me from having these moments. And so, yeah, so I finished Vibrate Higher Daily by Layla Dolly. I hope I'm saying her name right. This book has really been transformative in a lot of different ways. And I'm really happy because it was funny because at the beginning of 2020 or whatever, when quarantine started, I said that I really wanted to get back to some hobbies that I had. And I'm really proud of myself because, not that I thought I was going to read 20 books in a year, but I've actually really read like 3 books already, and I'm very happy and proud of myself for saying that I really wanted to get back to some of my hobbies and getting back to doing things that I just enjoy just for the pleasure of them, and not doing things for work or for money, but just doing things that I like to do just to do them and have time with myself. And so this book, I finally finished it. I finally finished it, and it has been really great. So I just wanted to get on here and basically talk about the book and how I felt. So the first chapter, which is Another Way of Being, I kind of summarized how I felt about that chapter in the journal post I had, or the diary post that I had, that was titled How Do You Want to Be, or A Different Way of Existence, or something like that. And so this one is just really going to be about self, others, and vibrating higher in the world, which is basically just 4 chapters. And so, one, I want to say that I loved the way that this book was structured. Like, it was a perfect flow. I mean, and I didn't get it, but by the end, I totally, like, the way she did from Another Way of Being to self to others to vibrating higher in the world. I just love the structure of the book. I love the flow of the book. I think reading each chapter, like, in order just made a lot of sense. And I love at the end that she does an epilogue to the readers. I think I said epilogue, right? To the readers, where she talks about using this book as a companion and as a source of gravity, which I think is so important, because the thing that she really encourages readers not to do is, you have that false sense of security, much like therapy, where you think that, you go to a couple of sessions and then everything that you wanted to work through is now fixed or it's complete. And basically she's saying that this book is a companion, it's a source of gravity, it's something that you always go back to, and that vibrating higher eventually is going to be something that you just do, that you just are, and not that you do, but that's going to take time, and it might take the rest of your life. So honestly, always coming back to this, always diving back into the words, going to your highlighted pages. Like, you can see I did a lot of like highlighting. So even she just really encourages the reader to constantly go back to this and never just let it be something that you read once, but that you continuously read, you learn from, and you use it until you really start living these words. She also says live your power. It's not something that you do, it's something that you just are. It's just the way that you exist. So I love that about the book. And I just want to talk about two things that really stuck out with me, and I think this book really helped, because I can't afford therapy, but this book. But two things. One of the things that I really loved about this book is in the last chapter about vibrating higher in the world. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I feel like I may have. One of the big things that I feel has always been hard for me is trying to live the way that I want to live in this world, and I find it to be completely isolating sometimes, and that something is wrong with me or I'm just not wired right. And I feel as though there have been a lot of times in my life where I've come into situations where I feel like there's something wrong with the way that I think, that I am, that I feel, that I communicate. And she really did help with some words that she said in the book. So I'm gonna read an excerpt that she said. Let me see. I think it's in the book actually. So she says, Sada, and I'm gonna get the page. Oh, sorry, I'm in the others. I gotta get to the last page. Okay, on page 159, she says, how do we show up in a world that we recognize as toxic, wounded, divided, and hurting in all directions, while we are seeking enlightenment, healing, balance, harmony, and a higher vibrational life? And how do we exit the metaphorical terrains in the life we've overcome with higher perspective, power, and purpose? So she basically goes on to just talk about how each of us have a rightful place and position in the world, and that there is a dire need for you to be yourself in every place in life that you are. And then she also goes on to say that she says another thing she says, there's only one me. It would be a great disservice to the world and a discounting the divine's intended purpose for me. So I just really love that. And also through my meditation, I started listening to, one of my friends put me on to Lundrell. I mean, really has elevated my meditation time. And he said something that was really pivotal to me, where he was like, if you believe that you are infinite, if you are convicted and really deeply rooted in the belief that there is a universe inside you, it's like, what is the world to a universe? Like, if you walk around really understanding and believing and being seated in that understanding about the divine's purpose for your life, and that though you live in creation, creation also lives in you. I don't know, like, that really made me have a mental shift about my place in the world. And that even though I am on a journey of healing and enlightenment and harmony, no matter where I am placed in the world, that alone of what I carry is the divine's purpose for my life. And that should never be minimized or made small, or I should never feel like there isn't an intended purpose and a dire need for me to be myself. And I have a rightful position in the world. So that was really helpful. I found that chapter to be very comforting and like renewing in a sense, because I felt as I was reading those words, a weight be lifted off my shoulder. And again, like, she was telling me that Andrea, it's okay for you to be who you are. And I love the part where she was saying it would be a big dishonoring of God's intended purpose of the divine's intended purpose for your life. And it's almost like you're saying that God's creation or the divine's creation wasn't correct. And it's like, who am I to say that about the divine? So that was part of that chapter that I really loved. And another thing that really, really stuck out for me was in the self chapter. Now this one, girl, she read me. I was like, girl, and that's how you clear them. Because I was like, Layla, get off my neck, sis. Anyway, so she says, you stop resonating with it or them. You stop reinforcing it or them through your choices and your actions. You stop identifying yourself with it or them, and instead you begin to vibrate into a new awareness, perspective, consciousness, intention, and personal power. And that one hit home for me because the thing about living your power and about this being a journey and a constant thing that you do, but more than that, it's just something that you are. It's like you have to, and I told myself, I was like, I have to stop reinforcing and resonating with low vibration things and people. Like when she says that this is a source of gravity, I feel like it's also one of those things where it's like, at some point in your life, you do have to recognize that you have a lot more power and you have a lot more authority over your life than you give yourself credit for. You are way more powerful than you give yourself credit for. And it was almost like she was telling me, she was like, girl, there are some things you can get together in your life just by saying no. No is a complete sentence that I no longer resonate or identify with low down, raggedy energy. And I no longer will accept that from other people. No. And so when she said also stop reinforcing that through your choices and your actions, that was also a really big one because it made me really start to recall some of the situations in my life that have very much brought me a lot of pain. And I cannot say that in any of those situations I didn't do or I didn't make choices and I didn't have actions that reinforced those lowly vibrating situations to continue. And I don't know, that was just like, that really hit me because it was it was a slap in the face, one. But two, it was also like, dang, I can make a lot of stuff change like that just by not resonating or identifying or even understanding this low place anymore. And so, yeah, man, I really love this book. Definitely gonna keep going back to it. I mean, even a month ago, I finished it a month ago, but I still find myself like remembering the words. I pull them out whenever I can, you know. And I think that's another thing that I really have loved about starting to read again. It's almost like the words are just like living in my brain. So it's like sometimes in situations it's so hard for me not to pull from this. And I think that that's the point though, right? Like I think that's the point, to get to a point in your life where some of these things are just, you live it. It just comes out of you. It's like the breath of life, like you just do it. And never separating from this. Like I think that's the new level of existence I want. That's the new consciousness. That's the new higher awareness I want to have, where it's like I don't see anything but high vibrations and anything else is like no. So yeah, girl, that's everything. Everything's been cool with the fam and everything like that. So yeah, girl, I'll talk to you when I finish the next book. Well.